At the beginning of the first episode of the HBO show The Newsroom, news reporter Will McAvoy is in a panel between a left-wing panelist and a right-wing panelist. Eventually, he's asked,
"Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?"
The panelists answer,
"Diversity and opportunity."
Lewis?
Freedom and freedom. So let's keep it that way.
Will?
Will stumbles through an answer, but the moderator never seems satisfied until Will finally cracks.
Why is America
Not the greatest country in the world, Professor. That's my answer.
There is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies.
So that got me thinking, what is the greatest country in the world, and how does America fit in the list? So I gathered a bunch of data relating to the categories of sustainability, economics, development, and ease of living from these sources in an effort to hopefully determine objectively what the best country in the world is, and ignore all the preconceptions that we already have. The purpose of this is to hopefully get past any emotional attachments we have to any specific country and focus solely on quantitative data. So let's start this off by looking at the USA. For starters, we're one of the 17 countries with 100% access to improved sanitation facilities, and we have a relatively high GDP per capita. GDP per capita effectively looks at how much money a single person makes per year. Not too bad, but certainly not number one. We have an above average percent of electricity generated from fossil fuels, as well as a low export to import ratio showing how dependent we are on other countries. We also have the 9th highest military expenditure per GDP, as well as being number 1 in total military spending about 3 times as much as the next country, and spending more than the next 8 countries combined, including China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, India, France, the UK, Japan, and Germany. A low military expenditure is desirable because it means the country has more money to spend on other things, such as health and social programs, and because it means the country is less likely to get into unnecessary wars, and values diplomacy over conflict. Despite this though, the US still comes in an admirable 4th place in ease of living. So if the US is only number 22 total, what takes the number 1 spot? That would be Norway, coming in number 1 in total, sustainability, ease of living, development, as well as having the highest contraceptive prevalence rate. Contraceptive prevalence rate is actually one of the most important statistics to look at when determining how advanced a country is, because it serves as an indicator of health services and female empowerment, as well as general development. It's also one of the 40 countries with 100% access to improved drinking water sources. It also has a higher GDP per capita, has a longer life expectancy, and a higher percent of internet users. Percent of internet users can be an indicator both of technological development and freedom of speech and information. However, it also has a higher dependency ratio. Dependency ratio shows on average how many people are being taken care of by one person, including that person themselves. For example, it's much easier to take care of only yourself than it is to take care of yourself and a dependent. You'll likely notice that it only comes in number 6 in economics. The number 1 spot in economics is actually taken by Ireland, likely due to having the 3rd highest export to import ratio in the world. The Irish enjoy a longer life expectancy and a higher GDP per capita, but also have less internet access, a higher dependency ratio, and worse access to improved sanitation facilities. Moving to the European mainland, we come to Switzerland. Switzerland takes the number 2 spot in total, sustainability, and development, and comes 1 place ahead of the US in ease of living. Switzerland is another country with 100% access to improved drinking water sources. In fact, its main downside compared to the US is that it has slightly worse access to improved sanitation facilities, having only 99.9% access compared to the US's 100%. If you don't want to move all the way to Europe, we get to Canada. Canada takes the number 4 spot in total, and beats the US in economics, sustainability, and development, but comes 1 place behind the US in ease of living. Canadians have a longer life expectancy and more of them use the internet, and get much less of their electricity from fossil fuels. Electricity from fossil fuels can show the technological level of a country, as a more advanced nation would likely use more renewable energy sources. However, they also have a lower contraceptive prevalence rate and a lower GDP per capita. Moving to Southeast Asia, we get to Singapore. Singapore takes the number 2 spot in ease of living. Singapore is both a 100% improved drinking water country and a 100% improved sanitation facility country, and has the third longest life expectancy in the world of 85.2 years. It has a significantly lower dependency ratio and a significantly higher GDP per capita. However, the reason it falls so far behind in sustainability and development is because 99% of its electricity is generated from fossil fuels. It also has a lower contraceptive prevalence rate and a lower percent of internet users. Moving over to South America now, we come to Paraguay. Paraguay is one of the 3 countries that gets 0% of its electricity from fossil fuels, and it has a higher contraceptive prevalence rate than the US. However, it has a much higher maternal mortality rate and infant mortality rate. Maternal mortality rate and infant mortality rate show the importance a country puts on healthcare, as well as the actual medical capabilities of that country's technology. Moving back over to Scandinavia, we come to Denmark. Denmark is a 100% improved drinking water country, and has the second highest percent of internet users in the world. However, it also has a higher dependency ratio and a lower GDP per capita. Moving back over to Asia, we come to the land of the rising sun itself. Japan also has 100% improved sanitation facility access, and has both the second lowest infant mortality rate and the second longest life expectancy. It also has a higher percent of internet users. However, it also has a significantly higher dependency ratio and a significantly lower contraceptive prevalence rate. The Japanese also have a lower GDP per capita. I could go into detail about every country in the world, but I just don't have that kind of time. But if you want, you can access the full spreadsheet using this link. I might even update it if data gets updated. So what's the takeaway from all this? The US can certainly be considered to be one of the most powerful countries in the world, but power isn't everything, and quality of life is a lot more complicated than that. At the end of the day, we can't just determine how good a country is based on how much money they make, or how big their military is. At the end of the day, life is a lot more complicated than can be accurately described by a simple sentence. There are a lot of factors that nuance everything, and there's a lot more to life than economic success.